For more than 3 decades, Cydney Brook Simpson lived inside a silence so complete it shaped every decision she would ever make. She was the daughter of O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson, yet her life was never defined by celebrity or privilege. While the world consumed headlines, arguments, and endless televised debates, Cydney carried something far heavier than public opinion. She carried memory. Her life was not altered by fame or money, but by a single night in 1994 that split her existence cleanly into before and after. On June 12th, Los Angeles police were called to 875 South Bundy Drive in Brentwood. Outside, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman lay lifeless, their deaths destined to become one of the most analyzed crimes in modern history. Upstairs, away from the sirens and flashing lights, 2 children slept. One of them was 8-year-old Cydney Brook Simpson. To the world, the house became a crime scene. To Cydney, it became the place where childhood ended forever. As the investigation erupted into what would be labeled the trial of the century, cameras flooded the streets, reporters chased every whisper, and her father, once celebrated as an American hero, became the center of a national obsession. When the white Ford Bronco rolled across television screens, adults panicked, the country watched, and Cydney was hidden away, too young to understand the law but old enough to feel the fear vibrating through every room. And here is the part few people ever stop to consider. What did the children hear that night? What did they see? Decades later, in a private written statement dated 2024, Cydney finally described fragments she had carried in silence. Heavy footsteps moving fast. A sudden crash. A scream that cut through the darkness. Then nothing. She described seeing a large male figure near the backyard doorway, hands stained with blood. At 8 years old, she could not fully understand what she was witnessing, but as she later admitted, she knew from that day forward. If this story already feels unsettling, pause for a moment and consider how many truths remain unheard simply because they belong to children without voices. When detectives questioned her in 1994, lawyers and relatives intervened immediately. No one wanted to traumatize a child further, and no one wanted to consider that a child might hold a truth capable of shaking the entire nation. Official reports noted the children were physically unharmed, but no record captured how deeply that night carved into their minds. School records from Brentwood Elementary later revealed panic attacks, severe anxiety, and an intense fear of loud noises. Cydney avoided doors, sobbed at footsteps, and was eventually transferred to a smaller private school for safety. After her mother's funeral, custody went to Nicole's family, led by her grandmother Jua Brown. The Browns, already shattered by grief, took in Cydney and her younger brother Justin, trying to construct something resembling normal life. But normal was gone. Every magazine cover, every replay of the trial, reopened wounds that never healed. At 9 years old, Cydney became part of history without consent. When the trial began in January of 1995, the world waited for justice, confession, or closure. For Cydney, it marked the beginning of a lifetime of quiet suffering. In therapy, she drew 2 houses, one bright and safe, the other dark, marked with red near the doorway. Her therapist recognized severe trauma immediately. The Browns refused every media request, understanding that exposure would turn the children into props in a national circus. On October 3rd of that year, O.J. Simpson was acquitted. Millions watched live. Some cheered. Some cried. For Cydney, there was only confusion. The man she once called father was free, while her mother was gone forever. That contradiction haunted her life. If you're still watching, take a second to reflect on how justice in a courtroom does not always mean justice in real life. By the end of 1996, Child Services reports described recurring nightmares, withdrawal, and isolation. Teachers described her as polite but distant, fearful of strangers, guarded beyond her years. As the media frenzy faded for the public, the noise inside her never stopped. The late 1990s blurred into custody disputes, therapy sessions, and a growing determination to disappear. After the acquittal, Cydney and Justin were placed under the care of their grandmother Judith Brown and their Aunt Tanya. Every move was calculated to shield them from cameras and questions, yet nothing could erase what lived in their memories. Cydney rarely spoke, even with family. A social worker's note from 1996 recorded that she refused to discuss her parents. Asked about her mother, she said only that she smiled a lot. Asked about her father, silence. Professionals described that silence not as weakness, but as armor. In 2000, the Browns made a decisive move, relocating the children to Florida in search of anonymity and distance from Los Angeles. No headlines. No debates. In Florida, Cydney attended Gulliver Preparatory High School. Teachers described her as intelligent and disciplined, but emotionally distant. The family requested her identity be protected during school events, and she asked for her photograph to be removed from the yearbook. Her name followed her like a shadow, but she refused to let it define her. In 2004, she enrolled at Boston University, majoring in sociology with a focus on criminology and deviant behavior, a choice that quietly reflected the questions that had haunted her since childhood. Her academic work explored the psychological impact of family homicide on children, yet never referenced her own life. Professors praised her empathy, restraint, and precision. She was studying herself without ever speaking the truth aloud. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing now. It helps keep deeply researched, human-centered storytelling alive. After graduating in 2008, Cydney worked at a nonprofit in Atlanta supporting children affected by domestic violence. For over a year, she served quietly, helping others whose pain mirrored her own. During that time, she began writing private notes about her memories, sealed away for decades. Some later appeared in legal filings, revealing her struggle to reconcile the father she was taught to love with the figure she remembered that night. One note read that she loved him, but feared his voice. By 2010, she built a life designed around invisibility. She declined interviews, rejected documentaries, and erased her digital footprint. Privacy was not a preference. It was survival. By the 2010s, Cydney Brook Simpson had created the quiet life she fought for, living in St. Petersburg, Florida, far from headlines and far from the past. While her father served time in Nevada for armed robbery, she built her own world, purchasing and renovating properties, operating a small real estate business under her full legal name. This was her reclamation. In 2012, she entered a relationship with Stuart Alexander Lee, who described her as kind yet haunted, marked by nightmares that never fully faded. She had one unbreakable rule. Her father was never to be discussed. When O.J. Simpson was released on parole in 2017, she remained silent. No statements. No appearances. In 2019, she agreed to see him one final time. The meeting was brief, heavy with unspoken truth. He handed her a copy of his book and suggested she would understand him better if she read it. In a later statement, she wrote that he did not need to say more. She knew it was goodbye. She severed all contact and formally rejected any inheritance. On April 10 of 2024, James O.J. Simpson died in Las Vegas at 76 years old from complications related to metastatic prostate cancer. The public learned through a short statement requesting privacy. But Cydney had made peace long before. By the time he became critically ill, she had not spoken to him in years, except for one final visit in late 2023. Witnesses described her standing at the foot of his hospital bed, saying she did not come to forgive him, only to remind him that she remembered. He wept. She left. After his death, she took deliberate legal steps to ensure separation. She did not attend the funeral. Her name did not appear as next of kin. She rejected all assets, signing a formal disclaimer months before his passing. In a statement released through her law firm in May 2024, she wrote that she retained the right to choose which memories survived in her life, and she chose her mother. For decades, the world debated guilt or innocence. For the child who lived in that house, there was never doubt. She carried the truth in silence until she transformed it into action. Her refusal became her confession. Today, Cydney Brook Simpson lives quietly as a business owner, a wife, and a mother, funding charitable causes anonymously, untouched by fame or spectacle. Her story is not one of revenge, but of liberation. She did not seek justice in headlines or courtrooms. She sought peace. And in choosing silence over spectacle, she reclaimed a life that was almost taken from her before it truly began. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment with your thoughts. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need to hear them.